You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan. April is Poetry Month, and every year we celebrate that with a special program with poets. Today my guests are Alicia Ostriker, Robin Coste Lewis, and Ursula K. Le Guin. All of them award winners of more honors than I can number, and more important, each of them a poet whose work, once heard, is never forgotten. But first we need to go inside the headlines. Inside the Headlines will be different this week. Because we're doing a special poetry show, I don't want to interrupt the poetry once we get going, so I'm going to front load the program with our normal features, Surrealism Corner and We Won This, that normally come as little features in the middle of the program. Never mind, though, don't be afraid, we'll get to the politics, but at the end of the show in fighting words. So, for now, Surrealism Corner. The Navy has dropped a national recruiting mailer that promised women they could enlist, quote, while staying in touch with your feminine side, and you can pursue careers that, quote, most girls aren't even aware of, close quote. Navy officials said they'd made this decision amid criticism that the wording was condescending and perpetuated stereotypes. You think? Former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Oh, remember dear Sarah. Well, she has announced that she's as much of a scientist as Bill Nye, who is well known for his terrific children's show, Bill Nye the Science Guy. He has multiple credentials, including a long experience working with NASA. Hello, Sarah. Anyway, she made this statement during the Capitol Hill premiere of a film that challenges the scientific consensus that greenhouse gases are responsible for global warming. She questioned his qualifications because she argued he is, quote, using his position of authority to harm children by teaching them that climate change is real and man-made, close quote. Gasp. What harm to children to teach them the actual truth? Oh, and there's one more little tiny item in the Surrealism Corner, which you may have heard of, but in case you haven't. Donald Trump, in a great peroration about the attack on the World Trade Center, he referred to the attack on the towers as 7/11. Yep. Thus confusing possibly the greatest attack on the United States in its history with a convenience store. Those would normally go in the Surrealism Corner, and this would go normally under We Won This. You know, our little feature to remind us that, in fact, we do win sometimes. It's not only the failures that should feel real. So, Harriet Tubman is in on the currency, and Andrew Jackson is out. Hallelujah. Andrew Jackson, who was a slaveholder and who was responsible for the deaths of thousands of Native Americans. He's gone, and Harriet Tubman, also known as Moses or General Tubman, African-American former slave who rescued hundreds and hundreds of enslaved people and went back and forth on the Underground Railway, rescuing them for years, while also being disabled, which not many people know about her. So she will go on the redesigned $20 bill. None of these changes will be evident until 2020, but still, they're coming. Meanwhile, Hamilton gets to stay on the 10, which is fine because, in fact, he did, establish the Treasury. Although an interesting piece by Cokie Roberts in the New York Times pointed out that she'd prefer his wife, Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton, to be on the currency instead of him because he was a philandering liar, although he was the first Secretary of the Treasury, and he's very hot now, having a star turn on Broadway. Meanwhile, on the back of the $10 bill, Hamilton will be on the front, and then on the back, revolving, will be the great Elizabeth Cady Stanton, the great Susan B. Anthony, the great Lucretia Mott, all of them suffragists, and Alice Paul, a Quaker who was taken to women's suffrage meetings as a teenager and organized protests ongoing for suffrage, and the great Sojourner Truth. On the back of the $5 bill will be Eleanor Roosevelt, Marian Anderson, and Martin Luther King Jr. So actually, women, and at least one man of color, have made it onto U.S. currency. A bit late, and as some have waggishly pointed out, only at a point in history when paper currency is being used less and less because everything is moving electronic. But still, we won this. And this would not have been the case a few months ago had the Treasury Department proceeded in the direction that they wanted. This was brought about, Harriet Tubman in particular, and the loss, hallelujah, of Andrew Jackson was brought about by women's protest, aided by that from some men of conscience, I hope. We won this. And now for my first guest. Alicia Ostriker has published numerous volumes of poetry, including The Book of 70, which came out in 2009, which received the Jewish National Book Award, The Crack in Everything, 1996, which won the Patterson Award and the San Francisco State Poetry Center Award, The Imaginary Lover, which was a winner of the William Carlos Williams Award, A Woman Under the Surface in 1983, and more. Her books of criticism include Stealing the Language, The Emergence of Women's Poetry in America. In addition, Feminist Revision and the Bible, that was in 1993, and The Nakedness of the Fathers, Biblical Visions and Revisions, 1994. Here to celebrate Poetry Month with us is Alicia Ostriker. Alicia, welcome to the program.
Okay, good morning, Robin.
You've been called a Jewish poet, a feminist poet, America's most fiercely honest poet. You've won lots of awards. To me, you're a poet and a feminist, which is not chopped liver, my dear, which is very, very important. And you've also written a lot of nonfiction, much of it to do with women's literature and with poetry. There's a wonderful quote of yours I came across which you were disagreeing with Auden, with W.H. Auden's statement that poetry makes nothing happen. And you said, poetry can tear at the heart with its claws, make the neural nets shiver, flood us with hope, despair, longing, ecstasy, love, anger, and terror. Yes, yes.
So, right. And I just want to add to that, I'm writing right now on the topic of the poetry of the city, and I realize that there is one poem that made something tremendous happen, and that is the poem that is on the base of the Statue of Liberty, which everybody knows, but people don't know the backstory, which is that the Statue of Liberty was a present to the United States by France that had nothing to do with immigration. It was supposed to represent French-American friendship because we had both overthrown monarchies. We were both republics.
Right.
And then when Emma Lazarus wrote that poem, it was a contest for a poem to put on the base. And that changed the meaning of the statue forever.
Of course.
And it changed the meaning of New York City. It changed the meaning of America.
Yes.
Because it said that this statue was the mother of exiles. And her torch was worldwide welcome. Give me your tired, your poor.
Right.
Your masses yearning to breathe free. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is a poem
that made something happen.
that made a lot happen.
And Shelley, of course, said poets are the unacknowledged legislators of the world. Would that were true. Not so. The unacknowledged part is definitely true, but would that we were the legislators. Anyway, of your many books of poems, you're going to read a few today from the Book of 70, yes?
Yes.
And tell us about them and about the Book of 70.
The Book of 70 was written at right about the time that I was turning that age. It has 70 pages. It's a kind of a cross-section of what a New York woman was doing and being as she arrived at that age. So let me read a couple of myth poems.
Okay.
This one is Persephone to Demeter, and you know that everybody knows that story. Demeter was an earth goddess. Persephone, her daughter, was kidnapped by the god of the underworld who brought her down there, and that's supposed to be a tragic tale. Mm-hmm. But maybe if you are a teenage girl or you have a teenage daughter, it might not be so tragic from her point of view. So this poem is called Persephone to Demeter, and it's the girl to her mother. You up there on the surface, poor, sad woman, ratty old quilt, you understand nothing of the rapture of liberty. No, I am not afraid of the subway, or the smell of piss, or the ravings of the druggies. Let them look up my skirt as I saunter past. The dead soldiers who killed each other revere me. The raped girls rush to kiss my hand. It was cool going down those iron stairs, then warm and with a breeze, with a faint tinge of smoke. Or was it possibly gunpowder? So that's designed to needle them up. And this is what happens when women start to take over the poetry world. They do it from their point of view.
At last, finally.
At last. And so this one, though, is Demeter to Persephone. And it's at the moment that Demeter is retrieving her. And you remember the story is that Persephone is allowed to come back to Earth for 6 months every year. That's the deal that Demeter struck with Hades. So Demeter to Persephone. I watched you walking up out of that hole. All day it had been raining in that field in southern Italy. Rain beating down, making puddles in the mud, hissing down on rocks from a sky enraged. I waited and was patient. Finally, you emerged and were immediately soaked. You stared at me without love in your large eyes that were filled with black sex and white powder. But this is what I expected. And when I embraced you, your firm little breasts against my amplitude. Get in the car, I said. And then it was spring.
Oh, it's the get in the car, I said. And then it was spring. It's just a really 1-2 sucker punch bang right at the end. It's just wonderful. We have time for another one. Can we find another one?
I can read you a marriage poem.
Okay.
I've been married to the same person for upwards of 50 years. And this poem is called The Plateau. The climb was long and often dangerous. There were recriminations, stumblings, and yet never did I desire another for my companion on this path. So at last we have gained the plateau. The delicacy with which we attend to one another's liberty is remarkable. Our demons sleep in their caves like angry children who have sobbed themselves into exhaustion while the grown-ups smile. You praise my writing, my cooking, my kindness. I admire your jokes, your politics, your photographs, and now shall I make a prediction? Someday one of us will begin to die, to lean on the other with horrible need, and passion will flow again.
Oh, you silver-tongued poet, you.
Thank you, Robin.
Alicia, what are you working on now? Tell us.
Well, right now I'm working on a sequence of poems taking place in New York City because my husband and I both grew up in apartments in New York City, and now we've bought one, and we're coming around full circle in the middle of selling our house in Princeton, where we've lived for 40 years, and we'll become New York citizens again. So I'm writing about the city.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, you are very much a city poet, which is not to say that you haven't written about, quote, nature, close quote. The world has been your subject oyster, unlike many poets who focus in only one area. And your feminism is quite complex and challenging and loving and a dynamic vision. So I
hope so. I hope so.
Well, it is. It is. I remember some poems about after you got a diagnosis of illness, driving back to the city. Remember something? What am I thinking of?
Oh, I have a sequence of mastectomy poems.
Yes, that have stuck in my mind like, I don't know, they were branded there forever. They are just stunning. What are they called? The mastectomy?
They're called the mastectomy poems or the mastectomy sequence.
And which book are they in?
And The Crack in Everything. The Crack in Everything.
The Crack in Everything, yes.
Yeah, and the title is from that wonderful song that goes, there is a crack in everything, that's how the light gets in.
Yes.
The Leonard Cohen song.
Yes. Ah, and I think he, in some ways, stole it from the Native Americans the Navajo say that when you weave a blanket, you must always weave a flaw in it on purpose
right,
so that the soul can get out. Ah, good stuff. Thank you, my dear, for your work, which means so much to me and a great many other lovers of poetry and women in general and smart folks, period. And I can't wait for you to move back to New York. And thank you for being with us today on Women's Media Center Live to celebrate Poetry Month.
Thank you, Robin.
It's time for a short break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, but I will be right back with more guests and more poetry.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. Continuing with our celebration of Poetry Month, my next guest is Robin Coste Lewis. She is a poet, a Provost's Fellow in Poetry and Visual Studies at the University of Southern California, and a Cave Canem Fellow. She was a finalist for the Rita Dove Poetry Award, and her work has been published in numerous journals and anthologies, including the Massachusetts Review, Callaloo, the Harvard Gay and Lesbian Review, Women in Literary Arts, Lambda Literary Review, among others. Her family is from New Orleans. She was born in Compton, California, and her first book, which she appeared on this program before to discuss, The Voyage of the Sable Venus, won the National Book Award, and deservedly so. Here again is Robin Coste Lewis. Robin, welcome back to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be invited back. Thank you.
Oh, you have an open invitation anytime you want. Anytime you want. Listeners may remember that Robin was a guest on Women's Media Center Live in February. If you want to go back, if you missed it and you want to go back and check it on WMClive.com or on iTunes, it's episode number 154. And that was when we were discussing poetry, discussing her remarkable book of poems, Voyage of the Sable Venus, and other poems, which won the National Book Award. And among the things we discussed was how in hell it got past the radar because the politics are so wonderful on race, on sex, on poetry, on everything. It's just a superb book. Congratulations all over again, Robin.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, the title poem, as those of you who listened to the earlier program know, is a long, stunning narrative poem, which is built from descriptions of literal catalog and art descriptions of works of art dealing with the black female form going from ancient times right up to the present. And just these one or two line descriptions have been arranged with enormous wit and artistry and impact by the poet, by Robin, into this stunning narrative poem, Voyage of the Sable Venus. That's the good news. The bad news is it's too long to read today. There are shorter poems in the book that are equally stunning. So, first of all, how's the book tour going, and how is life treating you as a National Book Award winner, Robin?
Thank you. It's treating me quite fine. It's I'm honored to step into this role. You know, it's beautiful, and I get to meet a lot of people and have conversations about the ways in which art and race and gender intersect and how they've affected our lives. And it's something I never would have anticipated. So it's going really well. I'm honored to, play this role for this moment.
I mean, I've noticed that I'm not asking, are you getting any new work done? Because if you're on a book tour, forget about that.
No.
Forget about that.
No.
Yes. But it will end, the book tour will end, and then you will sleep for a week, and then you can begin to think about the rest of your life. We need more poems from you.
Thank you.
So, what are you going to read today?
Sure, a poem titled Lure and a poem titled Plantation. If there's time, I'll also read another poem titled Summer. We'll see.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, this is Lure. I am not there. We are not in that room. I am not sitting on your lap. I am not wearing the yellow and white gingham skirt so pretty Grandmother just made for me this morning. Grandmother is not sitting at her sewing machine, revving the pedal hard like an accelerator, driving herself through the needle. You are not alive. That fifth of whiskey is not empty inside your pocket. I am not 3. You are not 79. Your fishhook fingers are not toddling my birdseed nipples over and over again. I am not admiring the shine of my new white patent leather shoes resting at the edge of your knee. Your other hand is not digging inside my brand new Friday panties Aunt Lydia just gave to me last week because she was so proud that instead of peeing in my diaper, I'd learned to make it in the toilet. Grandmother is not still sitting at her sewing machine, throttling the pedal harder, louder. This is not your hand, your mouth, your Pall Mall fingers, your fish hooks, your pearl-handled switchblade. My father is not at work mopping floors, unaware of me sitting here inside your lap, alligator. I am not 3. I am not breathing. I am not sitting in your lap forgetting the body has feet and legs and muscle and sinew and breath. I am not just staring at the wall. Those are not your countless splendid black bamboo fishing rods still hanging upright out there on the garage walls. Those are not the 5 gallons of salt water sitting so still and pale on the kitchen floor, the ones we collected yesterday at the beach to help my sister's skin. We did not climb down onto the giant rocks. Grandmother did not tie pretty silk scarves under our chins to cover our hair. We did not play hide and seek with cranky blue crabs. That beauty of a day never happened. There is not a 2-story giant avocado tree in your backyard whom I love more than life. There is no grass, no Pacific, no New Orleans, no Mardi Gras stories for which I long, no boxes my mare sends each hot winter filled with pralines and fudge and marble and yellow and green plastic beads, no Hail Mary, blessed art thou amongst women. I am not here. My skin does not hurt, my blood will not spill gray anywhere. You will not find me year after year. I will not even remember a thing. I will not stare at walls. I will not see you all my life, peering at me from around random corners, whispering something delicious out of a lover's mouth. I will not dislike the feeling of touch, will not be repulsed by the look of desire in an eye. I will not allow my teeth to rot. The metal implements of the dentist will not smell sharp like fresh shucked pearls. They did not send my mother away when she was a little girl. They did not put her on a Jim Crow train alone in the middle of a war, headed for Chicago to make sure you'd never touch her again and again for years. You did not ever touch her again. They did not kill you again and again. They did not slice your body into fine, brilliant offerings. This is not that feeling that this is my body, but I am somehow trapped inside another girl, unable to say or feel a thing. This is not the memory of another day. I am not a wet, headless, footless, squirming thing you dug up from the dirt beneath the red anthurium next to grandmother's breathy greenhouse and twisted onto a hook. I am not a fresh pink pulsing thing splayed on a tray my mother leaves on your front porch every Friday, dressed so pretty. Violet, hibiscus, red bird of paradise, I am not there. The air is not frozen any longer.
Oh, my God. Robin, that's an amazing poem. An amazing poem. Just, I mean...
Thank you.
And the story in it is stunning, but the art with which an incested child in this poem speaks and comes through to some other side is so extraordinary. I think it is the finest single thing I have ever read on the subject, and I, being in the women's movement for a long time, have read a lot on the subject. But this is a come through to the other side poem while not averting the eyes from the specifics in a way that only poetry can do, and you've done it.
Thank you so much. There's an incredible tradition of women and men writing poems about incest and sexual abuse. And I think that my poem stands on the shoulders of those. I definitely had all of that work in mind when I did, and I couldn't have written this poem without that work. And I wasn't going to include this poem in the book at all. I struggled with it, right? And then in the end, I decided, I read all those poems when I was a teenage girl and when I was in my 20s, and all the work that the feminist movement and the writers of the feminist movement did and continue to do really buoyed me, and so I thought it was a debt I needed to repay and move forward. And so that's why I decided to include it.
Oh, I'm so glad you did. So glad. And also, you reach the universal through the specific. So ironically, the specific details in the poem, although they are specific to the experience that you had or that the poet had, they are universal, because in the repeated incesting, the sending away of him from the mother and yet leaving him alone with the granddaughter is just, the heart sears. It's just a searing poem. It's a stunning work.
Thank you. I think that was important to include also because transgenerational incest is very common.
I know.
And yet we don't talk about it enough.
No.
Right? That this gets repeated across generations, so I thought that was important to include.
Very important and very brave to include it. And now may we have Plantation?
Absolutely. My pleasure. Plantation. And then one morning we woke up embracing on the bare floor of a large cage. To keep you happy, I decorated the bars. Because you had never been hungry, I knew I could tell you the black side of my family owned slaves. I realized this was perhaps the one reason why I love you, because I told you this, and you still wanted to kiss me. We laughed when I said plantation, fell into our chairs when I said cane. There were fingers on the floor and the split bodies of women who'd been torn apart by horses during the Inquisition. You'd said, well, I'll be damned. Every now and then you'd change from a prancing black buck into a small high yellow girl, Pigtailed, patent leather, eye-spinning gossamer, begging for egg salad and banana pudding. Or just as quickly, you'd become the girl's mother, pulling yourself away from yourself. Because my whole head was covered with a heaving beehive, you thought I didn't notice. I noticed. I cried honey. And then you were 14, and you had grown a glorious steel cock under your skirt. To brag, you rubbed yourself against me. Then your tongue was inside my mouth, and I wanted to say, please ask me first. But it was your tongue, so who cared suddenly about your poor manners? We had books, and a waterfall was falling in the corner. I didn't tell you I couldn't remember what that thing was you said to me once, that tender thing you'd said I should never forget. The moment you said it, I forgot it. I wondered if you thought we were lost. We weren't lost. We were lost. And meanwhile, all I could think about were the innumerable ways I would have loved to have eaten you. How being devoured can make one cry. And I hoped you liked the fresh, pleasant taste of juiced cane. You pulled my pubic bone toward you. I didn't say, it's still broken. I didn't tell you, there's still this crack. It was sore, but I stayed silent because you were smiling. You said, the bars look pretty, baby. Then rubbed your hind legs up against me.
Totally breaks the heart. We have time for just one more short one. Can we squeeze that in? Summer?
Sure. Summer. Last summer, 2 discreet young snakes left their skin on my small porch 2 mornings in a row. Being postmodern now, I pretended as if I did not see them nor understand what I knew to be circling inside me. Instead, every hour I told my son to stop with his incessant backchat. I peeled a banana and cursed God, his arrogance, his gall, to still expect our devotion after creating love. And mosquitoes. I showed my son the papery dead skins so he could know too what it feels like when something shows up at your door twice, telling you what you already know.
Wow. Oh, wow. The book is called Voyage of the Sable Venus and Other Poems. The poet is Robin Coste Lewis, and a wonderful poet she is. And we're celebrating Poetry Month, and thank you for celebrating that with us, Robin.
Thank you so much, Robin. I'm so pleased to be here.
We need to take another break here at Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, but I'll return directly with more celebrations of April as Poetry Month. Don't go away.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
And we're back again. My last guest today is also a recidivist returning to the program, the great writer Ursula K. Le Guin. In 2000, she was awarded the Living Legend Medal by the Library of Congress. She's with us in her capacity as a poet, the core essence of the poet. But she is also, simply, one of the greatest storytellers ever to write in the English language. Her Earthsea series, The Left Hand of Darkness, The Dispossessed, Always Coming Home, these have transformed fiction. And her criticism and essays on fantasy fiction, on feminism, on writing, are quite wonderful. The Language of the Night, Dancing at the Edge of the World, Steering the Craft. Her books of poems include Wild Angels, Wild Oats and Fireweed, Going Out with Peacocks and Other Poems, Incredible Good Fortune, and Finding My Elegy, New and Selected Poems. Her new book is Late in the Day, Poems 2010 to 2014. It's an honor to welcome back Ursula Le Guin. Ursula, my dear, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me, Robin.
The new book is called Late in the Day, Poems 2010 to 2014. So this book opens with a sort of a short introduction, which is remarks that you gave at a conference, Arts of Living in a Damaged Planet, with just beautiful stuff about poetry and science. Quote, "Science describes accurately from outside, poetry describes accurately from inside. Science explicates, poetry implicates. Both celebrate what they describe. We need the languages of both science and poetry to save us from merely stockpiling endless, quote, information that fails to inform our ignorance or our irresponsibility." Brava! That is profound.
Yeah, well, I meant every word.
Yeah, and it is deceptively simple and goes right to the point. And then at the end of this book, there's an afterword about you writing about form and free verse and free form. And for anyone who loves poetry and for people who still have a sense of mystification about poetry, it is a must read. And now to the poems, my dear. And I know that you are in a women's poetry workshop, aren't you?
Yeah, well, we are eight women, all over 50. I'm the oldest. And we've been meeting for quite a long time now. So we're kind of very much a working group. And it's been very, very important to me to have this group and to have our informal assignments every month. To write a poem in a certain form or on a certain subject or whatever, if we want to. It's definitely been an encouragement to just keep going and keep exploring poetry.
Well, most of the poems in this book, in other words, have been through that process.
Oh, I think almost all of them, yeah.
Wow.
And they have been taken to pieces kindly and torn into small shreds with gentle fingers and
yes,
and thought over. So it's well, a good group is a blessing.
Something wonderful about knowing, the meeting's coming up, I better have something ready.
That's right. That's right. It's like a deadline.
A deadline works. Share some of them with us, please, because they're each one is a gem.
Okay, well, I've got it open to the hymn to Aphrodite.
Oh.
So I will do that, although it's kind of maybe ought to come last, I don't know.
It's a stunning poem.
Hymn to Aphrodite. Venus solis occasus orientisque, dea pacifica, foam-born, implacable, tender. War and storm serve you, and you wear the fiery tiara of the volcanoes. Young salmon swimming downriver and the old upstream to breed and die are yours, and the fog-drinking forests. Yours are the scattered emerald half-circles of islands, the lost islands. Yours are the sunken warships of the emperor, and the slow swirl of pelagic polymers. The moon is your hand mirror. Mother of time and daughter of destruction, your feet are light upon the waters. Death, your dog, follows you down the beaches, whining to see the breakers break into blossom, into immortal foam flowers, where you have left the bright track of your passing. Pity your fearful, foolish children, O Aphrodite of Fukushima.
The ending of that poem, when we suddenly are plunged into modern times and then realize backwards that the whole poem has been in the past and the present and frighteningly the future, and we suddenly come across Fukushima. it lands with a chill at the spine and the hair on the back of one's head standing up.
This is kind of Lucretius's. That's why I started with a line in my own Latin. Probably not very good Latin, but it's Lucretius's Venus, who is kind of the mother destroyer, yeah.
Right. More.
Well, how about a few quatrains?
Oh, lovely.
They go lightly. I'll read 3. I like quatrains. Never could write haiku, but I love quatrains. The salt, para Gabriela. The salt in the small bowl looks up at me with all its little glittering eyes and says, I am the dry sea. Your blood tastes of me. And this is Artemisia tridentata.
Oh, I love this.
Some ruthlessness befits old age. Tender young herbs are generous and pliant. But in dry solitudes the gray-leaved sage stands unforthcoming and defiant. And this one's called Written in the Dark, and it really was. I have the manuscript, which is scrawled all over a small notebook page in pencil. The lionesses of the mind are dangerous. Big, sinuous, dun bodies range the plains of sleep. The fangs are sharp. The fire-yellow eyes fix on my heart.
Oh. The lionesses of the mind. I mean, that phrase alone fills me with envy. They say that a writer can give no greater compliment to another writer than saying, "Oh, you wrote that first. You found that. That phrase found you before it found." Oh, and but it doesn't come from my lower self. It's not that kind of envy.
No, poetic envy. I don't know. There's all this anxiety of influence stuff that seems to be a male thing to me.
Yeah, this is just wow, yummy, yummy kind of envy. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for giving me that. Yeah.
Oh wow. In the afterword and in other books and in blogs that you've written on your wonderful website, which is ursulaklewin.com. And is filled with goodies, listeners. If you haven't gone to it, go to it and have the time of your life. Reward your brain and your heart. But you have campaigned, with as a leading voice against the sort of commodification of literature. And there's this wonderful paragraph that you write toward the end of the book in the afterword, or the epilogue. Books aren't just commodities. The profit motive is often in conflict with the aims of art. We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable, but then so did the divine right of kings. And you go on to say, I've had a long career as a writer and a good one in good company. Here at the end of it, I don't want to watch American literature get sold down the river. We who live by writing and publishing want and should demand our fair share of the proceeds. But the name of our beautiful reward isn't profit. Its name is freedom. In other words, that the sales forces at publishers shouldn't dictate what gets published and writers shouldn't collaborate with that. Thank you for that.
Well, that's what I said at the American Book Awards when they gave me the medal. And
yeah, they must have been squirming in their seats, I'm sure, some of them.
Well, the Amazon table was notably silent.
Oh, God. Well, more poems, please. Another?
Well, how about New Year's Day? This was written to the assignment in our little group.
Mm-hmm.
Was to write a curtal sonnet, which is a form Gerard Manley Hopkins invented. And it's really scary to write something that Gerard Manley Hopkins invented,
Yes.
And it's not an easy form. But anyway, this is what happened. New Year's Day. An eagle anger with a broken wing struggles inside my body, and strikes blind to break the iron bars with iron beak. Far too late now for cure or soft healing. To such deep injury no hand is kind. Within me is the way the bird must take. In this cage, all the sky she can attain. The wide, clear, patient silence of the mind, where flight goes far and fierce thought can forsake words and seek distances out past all pain, ache, and heartache.
Oh. Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful form.
Yes.
It's not a sonnet, but I can see why he called it that, because there's that kind of break and change in the middle of it.
Yes, it's where.
But then there's the 2-beat last line.
Mm-hmm. We maybe have time for one more. Can we squeeze in between?
Between the acts, the interval. The leaves were late to fall this fall. Between the verdict and the doom, a whisper in the waiting room. A non-event between events, holding a secret and a sense. A winter wind just whispers where 2 winter trees stand tense and bare.
Nothing sentimental there.
You know, I think it's hard to be sentimental in the far western landscape. Between the desert and the mountains and the sea.
Well, yes.
it's and the very large sky, you know. I am very grateful that I'm a Westerner.
Well, I'm very grateful that you are, period. Never mind what follows on the R.
Well, that's mutual.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, my dear friend, for being and for writing these poems. Dare I ask what you're working on now?
It's poetry now. These stories seem to have left me. The short stories left when I was around my early 80s, and my last novel, I'm sure, was Lavinia. I just don't have I don't have the physical strength to write a novel. That sounds silly, but it takes a lot of strength and energy to write a novel.
Oh, no, I understand it completely.
But thank goodness the poetry is with me, and my group is with me to needle me into remembering that I have to write it.
Thank you for the book. Thank you for you. I send you much love, and I'm very grateful to you for being with us today on the program.
Thank you for having me, Robin.
We need to take one last pause here. I'm Robin Morgan. This is Women's Media Center Live, and we will return with some fighting words.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan.
Welcome back. In time for some fighting words. Oh, for the long-lost days when civics was taught in school. What has happened to our democracy? That's the question growled in outrage by 2 gentlemen claiming the status of outsider in the presidential elections, although one of these outsiders is a billionaire and the other a longtime member of Congress and a sitting senator. Yet when votes go against them, both yowl, acting as if the will of the people, as if we lived in a democracy. And Senator Sanders knows better. This is not a rhetorical flourish on my part. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a republic. There's a real difference, and most Americans have no idea what the difference is. A democracy is ruled by what some of the founders called the omnipotent majority. Any individual or group of individuals comprising a minority have no protections against the unlimited power of the majority. The classic pure democracy in ancient Athens meant that every single citizen had a direct voice in the government. Of course, this is only possible in a very small geographical area, and even then, citizens did not include enslaved Athenians or Athenian women. A republic, on the other hand, resembles a representative democracy, but has a written constitution of basic rights that protect the minority from being unrepresented or overridden by the majority. This is crucial. Laws passed by the majority through their representatives in government on a federal or local level can be challenged and overturned if they violate the U.S. Constitution. Disenfranchised and discriminated against groups rely heavily on this, hence the importance of the court. We've seen how this works. The founders may have disagreed on the role of the federal government, but none of them wanted a direct democracy. Madison, writing in The Federalist, noted, quote, "Theoretic politicians who've patronized this species of government, democracy, have erroneously supposed that by reducing mankind to a perfect equality in their political rights, they would at the same time be perfectly equalized and assimilated in their possessions, their opinions, and their passions." And Jefferson wrote, "An elective despotism was not the government we fought for." The founders were revolutionaries, but pragmatic ones. They knew that the will of the people was vulnerable to the rhetoric of demagogues and could veer perilously close to mob rule. Oh, and while we're at it, you might not know, as many don't, that George Washington was not the first president of the United States. The country was actually formed in 1781 with the adoption of the Articles of Confederation, which had been proposed in June 1776 but hadn't been agreed on by Congress until November of 1777. Once the 1781 signing took place, John Hanson, a merchant and delegate to the Continental Congress, was chosen by that Congress unanimously, Washington himself voted for him, to be president. The Revolutionary War had just ended. Immediate crisis. The troops demanded to be paid, and there were no funds to do so. Soldiers were threatening to overthrow the government and enthrone their general, Washington, as a monarch. Fortunately, Washington refused. Congress, meanwhile, ran for its collective lives, leaving Hanson to hold the bag and the country together and calm the troops. He did this. He also established the Great Seal, the first Treasury Department, the Office of the Secretary of War, and the first Foreign Affairs Department. The Articles of Confederation allowed the president to serve only a one-year term during any 3-year period, so he accomplished quite a bit in such a short time. 7 other presidents were elected after him: Elias Boudinot, Thomas Mifflin, Richard Henry Lee, John Hancock, Nathan Gorman, Arthur Sinclair, and Cyrus Griffin, whose term ended in 1789. The only name familiar in that group is John Hancock, and we know him because of the flourish in his signature. But during that time, it became clear that the Articles of Confederation were insufficient. Individual states had too much power and could agree on almost nothing. A new standard was needed, what we now know as the Constitution. And George Washington was the first president of the United States under the Constitution we follow today. As I said earlier, oh, for the long-lost days when civics was taught in school. In a future program, I'll try to translate the somewhat arcane rules and more recent history of superdelegates, pledged delegates, and the convention's process, which are almost but not quite as confusing as the state-by-state differences in choosing them, primaries open or closed, and flagrantly unrepresentative caucuses. In the meanwhile, however, newsflash to Trump and Sanders: you live in a republic, not a democracy. If you don't like that, take it up with the founders. And that's it for today. This program is syndicated, but if you can't find the broadcast on a radio station in your area, you can always visit us at WMClive.com. There you can find the show, plus the archive of all our previous episodes. And we're at iTunes worldwide. There you can stream, download, and subscribe to the show's podcast. Also, be sure to find WMC Live on Facebook and Twitter. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Opinions expressed here do not necessarily represent the WMC. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. Regina K. Scully is our founding sponsor. Julie Burton, Women's Media Center President, is executive producer. And I'm Robin Morgan, your producer and host. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget to join us next week right here on Women's Media Center Live.
For the smartest talk about news, politics, sex, books, religion, race, and more, tune your radio to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan. Audacious, witty, provocative, informative, and fun. It's Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on WMCLive.com. Talk radio with a brain.